Hello, and welcome back to Stinging Back, the podcast where we unpack the hidden truths behind online sting operations. I'm M.
And I'm A. Today we're joined again by D, a former law enforcement officer with inside knowledge of how these operations work. Today we're diving into a Chris Hansen sting that took place using the Scout app, a platform intended for adults seeking casual connections, but in this case, it was used deceptively by law enforcement. We will call this episode the Chris Hansen Sting Operation.
So let's start by explaining how Scout works. It's an app for adults. Users create a profile, chat, and meet up, usually within the understanding that it's for casual dating or even hookups. The interface encourages fast interaction. There's a prominent Say Hi button that instantly sends a greeting when tapped.
Right. And there's no confirmation screen. You can accidentally send a hi or a hey to someone just by tapping their profile while you're scrolling. And that's exactly what happened in this sting. We'll just call it the Chris Hansen sting operation. So a man was browsing through Scout and he accidentally tapped the hi button on someone's profile. He didn't mean to do it, but he did, and that led to where he is now.
So the profile was a woman listed as 19 years old, someone who clearly appeared to be looking for an adult connection. She responded immediately, which caught his attention. That kind of eagerness isn't common, and it drew him into the conversation.
Dee, are you familiar with the app Scout and how it works and who it's used by?
I don't use too many technologies other than the basic Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, so I'm not too familiar with Scout.
Okay, well, it is. We do know that it is an adult app, and so those who create a profile on it have to put in the age of an adult in order to be able to have a profile on there. So it's just not realistic for anybody to go on Scout expecting to come across a minor, much less one who's going to identify themselves as a minor to the strangers they meet on there, and much less one who is clearly seeking to meet a man for sexual purposes, which was the case in this sting operation.
Right.
So here's where it gets problematic. After engaging with this user under the assumption that she was an adult, she later claimed to be underage. But by then, they had already talked about meeting. What's more disturbing? The prosecution deliberately omitted the timestamps of the conversation. Timestamps that Scout normally provides for each message. Now, this is important for this case because the 19-year-old female or the user who posed as a 19-year-old female immediately responded to this man as soon as he accidentally pressed that button that sent her the hey. And that's quite unusual for something like this.
Well, and we've seen the loss of the timestamps quite a few times. Um, I'm familiar with several cases where there's a delay in the conversation. The guy may stop for 15 or 20 minutes, and then the decoy re-engages, but when it's shown to the jury or presented in discovery, there's no timestamp there. So it all looks like it's all consistent and it's happening one after the other. Now, that's not all. This man also had video chats with the profile where the person shown was clearly an adult woman, not a child, but the prosecution didn't include the video. They only submitted transcripts, which, let's be honest, could be edited or outright fabricated. If there's no video, at least audio, how do you prove those conversations actually happened?
Yeah, Dee, how would they prove that those conversations actually happened without providing video or audio evidence of that?
Have they not provided the audio or video into discovery?
No, all they provided was a transcript of the conversation that supposedly took place through video chat.
Well, then Chris Hansen's about to get another warrant for his arrest for failing to provide evidence. That's what it sounds like, and it's being done on purpose. I just have a little less respect for whenever we talk about Chris Hansen, because I think at this point in time we all know that this guy's a fraud. He's not going forward with these stings with any level of integrity. I mean, the individual's been arrested for fraud. He's been arrested for not showing up to court. He's been arrested for not providing evidence. I mean, the only reason why he's still around doing what he's doing is because he's making content that people like to watch and he's making money from it.
Right. I was just going to throw that in. Why should he care about, constitutional rights and breaking the law when he's making a fortune off of this stuff?
Well, more importantly, he is not a government actor. He has no place whatsoever in trying to conduct legal stings. From what I've seen and what I've heard, this individual doesn't even have a basic understanding on the evidence gathering process. So, why law enforcement is using this individual to conduct these stings is quite beyond me.
Right. And we recently discovered that he does seminars with some of the law enforcement and does training with them.
You ever see those martial art videos where the really old, kung fu masters doing these things with his hands and like 30 people fall down?
Right.
That's about what that training is.
So we do know that Chris Hansen has been a longtime friend of the Polk County Sheriff in Florida. That is Sheriff
Shady Grady.
Shady Grady Judd. Sorry, I have a hard time saying his name without calling him Shady. I just remember that it rhymes with Shady. So they've been friends for over 40 years. And the sting operation case that we are talking about tonight is a case in Polk County. So, of course, it involves that sheriff and it involves Chris Hansen. So they have been at this for a very long time.
Hey, can we pause for a moment? I'm trying to Google something because I believe one of his deputies got arrested at one of these stings. Yeah, I was going to. I just wanted to make sure what I was saying was correct because he was posting one of his sting videos on TikTok, and the comments flooded with the accusation that his deputy was arrested and Polk County deputy arrested in human trafficking sting. Boom.
So you're saying a Polk County deputy was arrested in a sting operation?
Oh yeah, that's
Oh,
the thing about virtue signaling and doing it loudly is when someone feels the need and desire to loudly virtue signal, it's because they're camouflaging what they're doing. We've seen that all throughout history. Usually they're stretching you with the right hand so the left hand can go behind your back and steal your wallet out your pocket.
so did the sheriff shame this deputy like he does the rest? Did he do one of those
Oh, heaven
press
no.
conferences?
No, he didn't get the Shady Grady press conference. No, of course not. That's bad publicity. He never.
Interesting. We do know that Shady Grady Judd has been sued several times, and I do believe there is currently an open lawsuit going on against him for defamation.
Hmm.
Good.
Um, I'm sure he will have more in the future.
Whenever you bring a law enforcement officer in like Shady Grady, you're going to come across legal issues that, in my opinion, are going to be new because the whole newly broadcasting, what he's doing before a trial has been met or even a preliminary hearing has been met, it's always going to spark a lawsuit, always. Because essentially what you're doing is you are openly violating someone's 14th Amendment right to be judged by a jury before any type of action is done by the government under color of law. So what we're seeing going on is people's rights being violated under color of law.
And we know that to Shady Grady and Chris Hansen, this is about putting on a show. This is not about protecting children from any real risk or any real sexual exploitation or abuse.
Well, we
There,
can throw so many others in there too. Mr. Ballard,
Rue Powell,
Timmy, Rue Powell. Yeah.
there's so many of them. So let's take it back to the case we were talking about in Polk County that Chris Hansen and Shady Grady participated in. And so let's be real. Let's talk about this app, Scout. It's incredibly unlikely that a minor would be on this app, Scout, trying to hook up with a random adult man and then actually admit to being underage during the conversation. That kind of scenario just doesn't make sense unless it's being manufactured like it was here.
Now, this isn't just about deception. This is about weaponizing an app designed for adults and manipulating its users into scenarios that never would have happened naturally. When law enforcement hides evidence, removes context, and exploits app mechanics, it's not justice, it's entrapment.
We have to ask, if law enforcement's goal is to protect children, why are they encouraging people to engage with who they think are adults only to flip the script later? If this is how they're doing it, they're not preventing harm, they're manufacturing it.
Before we wrap up, let's take a quick moment to talk about the power dynamics in these online sexual interactions. In most online conversations, particularly on adult hookup sites, women generally have more control. This is largely for a couple of reasons. For starters, the supply and demand imbalance on these platforms give women more options. Women are often outnumbered by men, and because of that, they have more control over who they interact with.
Right. And on platforms like Scout, women often initiate or control the pace of conversations. If they don't want to engage, they don't have to. And if they do, they set the boundaries. This is true not just in dating, but even in these so called entrapment scenarios. If you look at this Sting case, the woman on the profile could have easily ended the conversation at any time. But instead, she chose to continue it. And then they manipulate the situation. They act like it was his job to stop this conversation. And this is after they showed him a picture of an adult woman, showed him through video chats an adult woman. And then when he shows up, they presented him with that same adult woman who was standing outside waiting for him. And they still want to claim that he supposedly knew this was a 14-year-old. All he knew is that this was someone wanting to pretend to be 14 years old for whatever reason. And get this, they also claim to be a virgin, a 14-year-old virgin girl. Now, that's very close to a
Porn.
scenario of the plot of a pornographic film. You know, the young girl who was desperate to do this with a random adult male stranger, just anybody she could find. That's what they presented in this situation.
Yeah, the women in these interactions have the power to influence the outcomes, whether it's moving a conversation forward, redirecting it, or even blocking someone. The control is typically in their hands, not the man's. Thought that pops in my head with all of that, some of these guys have said, we think it's a catfish. We think it's somebody messing around. The guy is actually, some big fat 40-year-old guy pretending to be a 14-year-old girl. So we're going to play with it. We're going to run it. And another example that it is someone catfishing or a decoy is they play along. These guys can say ridiculous, alarming things, and a real woman or a real person would ghost or block these individuals.
Exactly, but they keep going because the decoy is keeping them engaged, and so a man in a situation like this will typically let the woman, and this is the person playing the woman in these cases, right? Will let the man will let her lead the conversation. His goal is to meet her, to find out who this is and to find out what this is really about or not. So at that point, it doesn't matter how old they claim to be, even if they claim to be underage, because it's clear that this is a person who is seeking a man to meet him for sexual purposes. That's not going to be a real minor.
And everything about it says it's an adult or a scam or someone fishing. And that's why these guys get caught up in these things.
Exactly. So in these kinds of operations where the men are targeted, it's often the female decoy who holds more control over how things play out. So if the decoy was playing a female, that decoy has control of the conversation, not the man they have targeted to engage in this conversation. The interaction is not just a random encounter, it's often driven by deliberate actions meant to push the conversation in a certain direction. And again, the decoy who is playing the female is the one controlling what direction that conversation will go in.
Right. Now, if you've been targeted like this or know someone who has, reach out to us. These stories need to be told. We need to collect the data. We need to get the statistics. That's part of our goal is to let, you know, all of the deniers know we're not alone.
Dee, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up this episode?
Yeah. So as we were just talking about, online encounters, dating, whatever, it kind of sparked me to see, just to go on Tinder and just to see, how many bots are on here and whatnot. Because, the whole foundation of these things is that these men believe that they are talking to a minor, correct?
Yes.
So if they don't have that, they don't have the fundamental, probable cause to make their arrest. And when they try to get the probable cause, the Supreme Court has ruled that probable cause is 30%. So, it's hard to deny that probable cause when all they need is a 30%, percent sure that I 30% sure believe this person committed this crime. Cool. Let's go to press conference. Um, I just started Tinder a week ago just to see how many bots are on here, and I count nine. So obviously they're fake women, and the goal of them is to get me to subscribe to an OnlyFans or whatever. The end game goal is for them to get money out of me, right? So already I'm predisposed to get on any type of outlet for adults where it's dating or whatever it may be, encounters, or I'm already prescribed to be a bit, I don't believe this, right? And I can frankly just tell by their pictures they're too perfect. To say that someone is believes 100% that this is a minor or someone not outliving through a weird kink that they have, it's almost impossible to say that. It makes these themes entirely useless. It makes them more so just publicity stunts.
And Dee, you just reminded me of something too. Someone I spoke to whose their sting operation was conducted on Reddit. So I went onto a lot of these subreddits just chasing after the comments of some of these people who are posting on these pornographic subreddits, I guess. Some
Mm,
people say it's not porn, but if you go on there, there's a lot of explicit images. But there was one that I saw was commenting on a subreddit called Teen Girls Want Older Men. So I thought this was interesting because this was somebody who was calling me a pedo or bringing to the attention of people on these forums that, beware of anybody claiming to be underage on this forum because that's very likely someone who's trying to set you up to create a fake child predator case against you. So someone responded to me and called me a pedo, said I must be one. Um, and so I looked at their history of where they had commented, and this was a person who was commenting on the subreddit Teen Girls Want Older Men. And this was a man who was saying he was old enough for them, and I don't know what. He was playing into that. And these were women who were pretending to be young teen girls who were looking for older men to meet for sexual purposes. And then what they do is they refer them over to their OnlyFans account. So basically they're playing the role of young teen girl who wants an older man and they're making money off of this fantasy. These are the situations that the decoys are presenting to men in their sting operations where they are supposedly trying to protect children from online predators who are seeking minors online. It's crazy what they're doing.
I believe when I read the statistics for people that get molested as children, they almost always know the violator, meaning it's a family member, it's, someone who's in their atmosphere. It might be a teacher or something.
Yes.
They generally,
Church, family friend,
right,
someone around them. Someone that the family trusts to be
right.
around their children.
So it's in the 90-ish% range of people who get molested know who their molesters are. And to me, it's really interesting. They're choosing a at most 10% demographic to go after. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense. It seems more like a wasted resource. And end of the day, I mean, something we're seeing quite often in these things is when they do arrest the men, they don't have any type of CP on their phone or any electronics. It's not something that they're looking for. It's kind of like they went to an adult app to look for adults. Weird.
What's very
Yeah, go figure.
interesting, what's very interesting is that in a lot of these cases, we found out too that law enforcement never even bothered checking the computers of these men that they are accusing of being child predators. You would think they would take their computers, their laptops or computers or any other electronics to see if they have any of this, CP or trying to lure minors online. And they don't check that, and which shows they really don't care. They're not looking for that. They only want to create the case just for funding purposes.
Oh no,
Right, and they manipulate it otherwise.
it's not that they don't care. It's that they're self-aware.
They know they know they're not going to find anything like that. And so that would be exculpatory evidence. So therefore they deliberately don't search their computers because they don't want to have to admit that there was nothing of that sort found.
Well, that goes down one or two ways, and not good in the police's case, because either one or two things happen. One, you searched it, you didn't find anything, they didn't get charged with it, and you're keeping that, really low because that shows that they're not predispositioned to commit the crime, proving entrapment. Or you already know the person that you arrested is not a pedophile. You know that you went outside the color of law to make an arrest, and at that point in time, you know that you engaged in entrapment. Here's my thing. A lot of young folks getting out there, they watch The Rookie, they get inspired, they want to be police. Cool. Do not be the police our forefathers would have killed.
Yeah.
Do not openly violate people's rights. Do not openly engage in entrapment method. Do not try to plant evidence. Here's my thing. Why? What's the point? You're going to come across crime on a daily basis. I mean, if you're really good at your job, you don't need to do these things.
Well, like you said in one of our other episodes, what was that? Federal funds turns law enforcement into thugs, and that's exactly what has happened with these sting operations. It's
Why?
about the money. It's about the
Why?
funding.
These third party stings. I just imagine some young person in college just so desperate to be some social justice warrior who decides that, in their own mind, they're going to try to make a difference, which it's admirable, but you need to know how to do that before you do it. If you just go online and you do what you're going to do, it's going to result in innocent people being arrested and ruined.
See, I just don't believe that they really do mean well. To me, it's pretty clear that they are malicious. They know very well they're causing harm and damage to innocent lives, and they're proud of it. They don't
Well,
care.
they
They're
see
proud
it
of
as
it.
a means to fame.
Yes, they don't care what they're doing, what harm they're causing to lives and their to people's lives and their families. The only thing they care about is what they are getting out of it for themselves. Like Em said, money and fame and, recognition. I'm a hero. You should view me in a very positive light and look at this monster. I want you to view him as a monster, and I have a need to make him look like a monster so that I can feel good about myself. And
hide what I actually do. Yeah, so many times we've seen that. They rant and they do this work, and then what do? They're assaulting all their female volunteers, or the case out of Seattle that we mentioned in another episode. He rants about hunting pedophiles, but he's been molesting his stepdaughter the whole time.
Well, they are showing us what is in their minds by the scenarios they are creating and presenting these men with.
Yeah.
Who comes up with with being a 14-year-old virgin girl who is soliciting random adult male strangers on an adult platform to engage him in a sexual conversation and invite him to meet to engage in sexual activity? Think about that. That's the fantasy they created, and then they forced it on men who were not looking for that. That's pretty disturbing if they truly want the men to believe that this was a real 14-year-old virgin girl who was seeking this. Now,
Gosh,
if it's
I
just
bet,
role play,
Freud. I wonder what Freud would have to say about all of this.
oh, I think that's exactly what Freud would say.
Right, so now don't forget, check out our friend's Norm YouTube channel, ICAC Unpacked, Kathleen's blog, Lady Justice Myth at ladyjusticemyth.blog, and the new Facebook page, Uncage Us. That's UNCAGEUS.
So stay tuned. We'll be diving deeper into this case and others like it. And remember, you're not alone. Thanks for listening. And please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear the truth, because the truth matters.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep watching, and keep fighting back.